like our videos, go ahead and subscribe and share them and hit that like button for me. Hey everybody, it's Matt with Everywhere Auto Repair. Today we're working on a 2001 Infiniti i30, which is the same as a Nissan Maxima, and we're going to show you how to replace the alternator. First thing we did, take the wheel off. Next thing I did is there's this bolt right here. That's a 14 mil. You got to break that bolt loose. I used a ratcheting wrench. After you loosen that 14 mil, there's a 14 mil up here that you got to loosen. See, I'm using this setup, and I'm just gonna break it loose. Take that film. That bolt is actually reverse thread, so I was tightening it, and see it's on. I tightened it, and then that gave me enough play in my belt to come down here on the AC compressor. I just pulled it off a little bit. It was pretty easy. The next step, we're gonna start taking these bolts off for the AC compressor. Now you see how they're all gummed up? Do not try and put sockets on these gummed up nuts and bolts. You take a screwdriver and you sit here and you scrape them off, okay? And you get them clean, and then you put your bolt on them, your socket on them. All right, so there's 4 bolts. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. On the best way to get them off, I found, is to take this big ass ratchet right here. We also have this smaller ratchet that we used on the bottom ones, but they're a little bit tight, so I decided to get the big boy out and set it on there, and then I take my hammer and then all right, you got to hit it hard, because these ones anyways, they were on real tight. Loosen all 4 of them before you take any of them off. Take the bottom ones off first. Cut. Okay, so we took all 4 bolts out, and now you can see this whole setup has come down some. That's going to give us access to get our alternator down and out of here. Cut. So we actually have to remove the idler pulley, this thing right there, because as you can see right there is the bolt that holds on the alternator. So I'm gonna go ahead and spin this guy off and take it all the way off. Now he's got his extension going down to a swivel, taking the electrical connection off. What size is that nut? 13. And then there's also right there, that's an electrical connection. I know it's a little dark. All right, we've got the new alternator almost mounted up in here. You can see that the stud is not poking through yet. In order to get this thing out, first we kind of push up on this to take some tension off of this bolt, and then we push it through. And then I took my left hand and I put it, and you can see our AC is just hanging down really far now. I took my left hand and I brought it up on the other side. I brought it up right here once we got this pushed out a little bit, and then I put my finger on there and I keep tension on there. And then while my tension is on there with this hand, I take my other hand and I push up and down on it like this. When I'm putting it back in, it's pretty much the same thing. I get the alternator mounted up so that both ears of the mounting point are where they're supposed to be. And then I take my left hand and I put the bolt in and I slide it in, and I move the alternator up and down, and at some point the tension is off of it, and that allows me to get the bolt in. So I don't have the bolt in all the way right now, but that's what I'm going to do. take the tension off, wiggle it up and down. At the same time, take my left hand and push it in. We got the bottom bolt, mounting bolt in, and then we've got this bracket right here. So there's a bolt that goes right here, holding the bracket. It's right here. It holds the bracket in from this side, and then there's a bolt that comes in on the other side of the bracket, holding the action in from this side. So right now, Tino is tightening up the bolts that mount the AC compressor to the motor. Something he was having trouble with was lining up the 4 bolts. So I'm going to give you some tips that I gave him. Start with the top bolt that is easy to get to, okay? Start with the top because it's easy to hang parts with a bolt from the top. It's easier than hanging it with a bolt from the bottom. So I got the AC compressor up in there, and then let's say that this is the block and here's the AC compressor. Then I take I kind of get all 4 bolts kind of close to lined up. Then I slide the bolt in the top, and when I pull the AC compressor maybe 1/8 of an inch off of the block, off of the engine block, and then I can see my mounting bolt going into the engine block. I get it started, threaded in. Once it's threaded in, I give it a tug. It's not coming out. Then I go to the next one, and once you get that first one mounted up, the other ones are easier. So I went to the next one, and I pull the AC compressor a little bit off the block, put the bolt through, make sure it gets into the block, threaded in, tug on a little bit, make sure it's good. Now I get the 2 bottom ones. Pretty easy. The next step is putting the idler pulley back on. So you just got to go ahead and, it's pretty simple. Just put it on the same way you took it off, with the spacer in the back and the spacer in the front, and the washer, I should say. And then I thread the belt around it. So what I did was I tightened it up to make sure it was on there good, and then you got to back it off in order to adjust the belt tension. So I backed it off a little bit, and then I pushed up on that pulley, and then that gave me the room to fit my belt in and adjust my belt. See, it's all wrapped around all the pulleys. And now with my belt, with my pulley, with the bolt on the pulley loose, I'm going to now adjust the tension with this. So I'm going to spin it this way, and I'm going to tighten up the tension on my belt. And while I'm tightening it, or while Tino's tightening it rather, I'm going to be feeling this to feel for how much play. You want about 1/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch of play. So a 1/2 inch, okay? Get about a 1/2 inch of play on the longest part of the belt. So let's look at this again. You see the span from this pulley to this pulley is the longest span that this belt goes through on this car. So that right there is where I'm going to be testing to get a 1/2 inch of play. Faster. So it's been a few weeks since we changed the alternator on that Infiniti i30, and I got a story to tell you. That guy, he broke down in some random neighborhood, okay? And while we were working on his car, the cops come, and they just start talking to him. They ask him for his ID and all that, and it turns out that he's got a restraining order against him, a protection order from his girlfriend, and apparently it's her house that he's parked near. but not like parked in front of. He's parked like down the block from his ex-girlfriend's house. And like that was the address he gave us. And we pulled up, and he came walking up behind us and was like, hey, oh yeah, the car's over here. I was like, okay. And the whole time we're working on it, he's like walking back and forth down the street, you know, looking at the house, I guess. And then the cops come, and they talk to him for a while. And typically, if you violate a protection order, you know, like that's usually like a condition of bail, a condition of bond, and you go back to jail. You go back to jail if you violate a protection order. So that's what I'm assuming is gonna happen, right? They're gonna arrest him, but they don't arrest him. So he comes back over. I was like, hey man, look who didn't get arrested. How about that? And we were like, yeah, that's cool. And then I thought it was all gravy, right? Wrong. Well, the cops just kind of stuck around a little bit. And there was 2 of them, but then a third one came. And I didn't really hear the whole conversation. All I heard was, you know, you're going to be under arrest today. And then I didn't hear my customer's half, but then he said, yeah, you are going with us. So I'm assuming he said, I'm not going to jail. I'm not going with you, or something like that. Which if you've ever had training, I'm not going to jail that's the first punch, okay? Like a fight is about to happen. So you better watch out. That's a little pre-attack indicator. So I heard the cop say, yeah, you are going with us. Or going to jail or something like that. And then the guy runs. And the cop tackles him, almost tackles him into me. So I squirm out of the way, and then he got away. Like he squirmed out of the cop's grip, and then ran. And he ran into a backyard, and the cop chased him and caught him. And some more cops came, and they drug him out. And so basically, I finished working on the car, and I had to get paid from, you know, the guy basically told the cops, hey, you know, you can take my wallet and pay these guys. And so he was locked up, you know, he was in cuffs whenever he paid us. So that's pretty crazy. You gotta be careful, okay? When you're running a mobile service, you meet all kinds of people, okay? And you're going where they live. And so it turned into a little bit of drama. But, so you just gotta watch your back. Don't be in people's way if the cops come and take somebody or end up shooting somebody, heaven forbid. But yeah, that was a little crazy story with that one. But we got paid, we got the job done. The i30 was charging the battery at the end, so that's good. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them down below. I hope this video helped you. If it did, please hit the like button and subscribe and all that. Keep an eye up the hill, guys.